Hola, UPC. I apologize, my Spanish, not good. If you need me to slow down or repeat, or if you have a question, just raise your hand as we go through, okay? And Heather is very fluent in Spanish, so she can help me out a little bit too. If I were to pick up some of the things that Roxana was saying, we'll test my Spanish a little bit. Would it be safe to say that the students over here are in the 8th and 9th semesters of your program? So I got that. So you guys might be ready to start thinking about your master's degree if that's something that you're interested in, right? Great. How many of you have ever taken an online course before? You have, that's great. How many have thought about it or seen it? Anybody? A couple more? When we were walking here through your beautiful campus area on the green space, and there was probably 200 students that were relaxing and enjoying the sunshine, so beautiful. I would say out of those 200 students, about 100% had a phone or an iPad or a computer, right? So everybody out there was doing something on their device, which is really a good example of what you can do with your devices and with technologies is online education. So many of our students are doing the same things that you are doing in terms of going to school, raising children, working full-time jobs, and also taking their courses online, either doing a lot through their phone or through their iPads and through their computers, and ultimately earning their master's degree. So I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more and then talk a little bit about the evolution of online education. And then we're going to do a little demonstration of what it would be like to take a course if you were to enroll at the Chicago School and take an online course. Sound good? Okay. So remember, just raise your hand if you have a question as we go through, and we'll answer your questions. If you want me to slow down or say something differently, I can certainly do that too. Sound good? Okay, great. So this is just a brief introduction of myself and my family. I wanted to show you just a couple of pictures of what I'm all about and where I live. And you can also see a couple of pictures of when I was here last time, a little bit over a year ago, I think it was, Roxana, when I visited your campus last time and spoke to some of you. Were any of you, did any of you see me last time I was on campus? Oh, and you came back. Thanks. That's good. That means you're doing something right. So thanks for coming back, and hopefully we'll have some new things to show you, and you'll have some new questions for us as well. There's also a picture there of me meeting with some of the UPC alumni students who were showing an interest for their master's degree after they graduated from here. And in the bottom left-hand corner is just a picture of some of my faculty that went on a conference with some of the UPC faculty. So you can see Ms. Roxana, Ms. Katuska, and Ms. Gladys in the back. Hi there. So we were in Costa Rica last spring, on a conference for global citizenship. So we had a very nice time with the faculty from the Chicago School and the faculty from UPC. So, assuming our technology works, I want to show you a couple little videos and to give you the feel of what our campus is like at the Chicago School. I have to go back out here.
Sitting down with an individual who's not judging you, who's meeting you where you're at, who's empathic to your needs, your wants, and your feelings, and understands that sometimes the best therapy in the world is just to be heard. We need someone to remind us of our resilience and reminds us of how strong we really can be, and when we're weak, provide us with tools to make us strong once again.
We are dedicated to preparing our students for their careers in psychology and behavioral health sciences.
When you look at counseling, and you look at what counseling is, you have to take into consideration that these people come from a different background. And based on the mission statement and the resources I found about the Chicago School, it presented like the best fit for me based on my own personal philosophy and my understanding of what the counseling field looked like.
You're being trained by professionals in the field who are doing this work. So they're providing those skills, but they're also viewing us as people who they're going to work with in the future.
The focus is a little more intimate. So the access you have to the faculty and the access you have to the student body becomes a lot easier.
We really focus our efforts on campus, in the community, and internationally in raising our students' attention to working with underserved and underprivileged populations and with the diverse communities that we serve.
I do think it's really beneficial for students to have a completely different experience, whether it's 1 year working with adults, the next with children or adolescents. All the diversity factors that may be involved would be beneficial with their own personal and professional development.
The Chicago School of Professional Psychology is a place that has well-connected community partners in terms of training students in a practical way. So taking the learning that's occurring in the classroom and then having sites where students can apply that learning in sort of a world-class setting.
They give you the opportunity to go out into the community to experience what people are actually going through.
There's always going to be a need for individuals to help other people out from a mental health perspective.
I feel like we all cross paths for a certain reason. And I feel like being a psychologist in the future, that I'm going to cross the paths of very many people who I'm meant to help out at that particular time.
So there you got a feel of what the Chicago School is like. And if that was too loud, let me know, and we'll turn it down for the next video. Is that too loud? A little bit? I might need help from somebody to turn it down a little bit. But we'll do that for the next one. Just a quick backdrop on the Chicago School. We have, is it 6 or 7 campuses? Somewhere around there? Yeah, we have 7 campuses in the United States. 6 of those are all around the United States. They're regular campuses, just like you have this campus and you have other campuses with UPC. And the 7th campus in the United States is the online department, which is the one that I'm the department chair of. And we have about 200 students in the online MAP program, as well as about 20 faculty. But the thing to really know is that if you get your degree from whether it's online or whether it's at our Chicago campus or our Los Angeles campus or any of our campuses, it's the exact same degree. So you're taking the same tests, you're reading the same books, whether it's online or you're on campus. The only difference is that you're doing your schoolwork, you're submitting your assignments, you're getting graded through the online platform, but the degree and the education is exactly the same thing. So before I get into telling you more about the Masters of Arts in Psychology online program and giving you a demonstration of it, which I hope you'll find engaging and informative, because I'm a professor and I'm sure your teachers would be upset if I didn't, I need to give you, I need to teach you a little bit about online education first. So this will only be about 4 slides. And if you're interested in this information going forward, maybe for your own research studies or things that you're interested in, I brought a few research articles with me and some copies of those, and you can take those with you if you want to do more research on your own. Oh, let's make this bigger here, right? Okay, there we go. So this is a quick slide which basically walks you through the evolution of online education. And I think it's interesting to think back because, you know, right now we know about online education. We have iPhones and iPads and other technology where we're connecting with each other. And we kind of think that online education is a brand new thing, right? Well, the idea of taking courses outside of a traditional classroom has actually been around for about 125 years. So you can see back in 1892, about 125 years ago, the University of Chicago, which is different than the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, but still in Illinois, they actually started offering what was called then a correspondence courses that led to a degree through the mail. And if you can imagine how long it would take to get your degree when your professor sends you something through the mail, and it may take a week to get it, of course back then maybe a couple of weeks, telling you what articles to read or what books to read, and then writing a paper on that, and then mailing that back to the professor or to the university to get graded, and then mailing that grade, it could probably take you a year to just finish one course. But the point is that they had a mechanism even way back in 1892 for students to get their college degrees even though they couldn't attend the courses on campus and in person. Then of course the radio was invented, and in 1922 Pennsylvania State began to broadcast their course lectures over the radio. So hopefully you're not too young enough to remember what a radio is, right? So you would tune into a particular station that the university owned and operated, and the professor would do a lecture over the radio that you would hear, and obviously there would be instructions then on how to complete your assignments and your research papers and get those to the professor for grading. Then, of course, the television was invented, and in 1953, the University of Houston, which is in Texas, began to offer their coursework through the television. And so similar to the radio, they would have their own on-campus TV station. I don't know if maybe one of your other campuses has a broadcasting station, or they do any sort of broadcasting through their programs. But the University of Houston at Texas, back in 1953, began to offer their courses through the television, where you would sit and watch a program or a lecture from your teacher, and then complete the assignments and eventually earn your course grades and your degree that way. And then the thing that changed and revolutionized technology and how we do everything is that the computers were invented, right? So in 1960, the University of Illinois began to link computers for remote lectures. So back then, we didn't all have iPhones and iPads and separate computers and laptops and Wi-Fi's. They had to actually connect physically with the wire, all the computers in a lecture hall. But that gave them a new technology to deliver the course material and to lectures. In 1993, so not too long ago, how many of you were born after 1993? Maybe about half. Jones University became the first fully accredited online university in the United States. So that's when you could really start to take all of your courses online, and the university then became accredited, which basically means that it had the same standing and reputation as all the other programs within that particular university. And jumping then to today's times, in 2016, over 6 million students are currently taking courses, online courses worldwide. And this is, I think, and this is an interesting statistic, is that twice as many students earn their degrees online as in a traditional university. So that's kind of something interesting to think about, that there's twice as many graduates from online universities as in traditional universities. Any questions about the evolution of online education or some of these technologies? No? Okay. So I'm going to go through 3 slides fairly quickly, and like I said, I did bring some copies of the research articles that these were pulled from, but I wanted to give you just a quick flavor of the theorists and the professors and the researchers that have done a lot of work in both regular education research as well as online research. And the idea here is to really think about what makes a good online program, because there's so many out there. I don't know if you've seen lots of advertisements or have done some research, but there's many, many online universities. And it can get confusing, so you begin to wonder, well, what makes one better than the other, and what should they have so that it really ensures that you're having a good student experience that ultimately leads to a degree. So the first theorist, his name is Vincent Tinto, and he believed that universities need to integrate students socially in order to be successful, right? That's kind of a no-brainer, and you can see it right out in your own campus, just the description I was talking about earlier in your green space, where everybody is commingling, right? They're talking to each other, they're relaxing, they're enjoying the sunshine. It's a social atmosphere. And so Vincent Tinto believed that you had to have those types of things at a university in order to make it successful. And that's the reason why I put the picture right up to the right, because that shows you what a traditional university experience feels like when all your senses are engaged and you're meeting with people, you're talking with professors, you're enjoying the experience with other people. Well, that can be really difficult in online education because, as the picture on the bottom right shows, oftentimes you're taking courses by yourself. You're not in a classroom experience like this where you can ask questions right away in real time, or sit with your friends and ask questions, or look on your iPhones at the same time. Come on in, have a seat. So when you take an online course, sometimes it can feel very isolating. And so what Vincent Tinto would say, in order to make a good online program, you need to add in experiences where the students feel like they're being social. And that's something that we're able to do at the Chicago School, so you don't feel like you're just a student on a computer taking courses, but you're connected with other students who are taking the same courses, and you're connected with your faculty who may have some video hours, or some phone hours, or some chat times. So you always feel that there's a connection with other faculty, with other students, to give you the same sort of experience that you have when you're in a traditional campus. Come on in. The second theorist that I wanted to share with you, very famous, and I know that we're going to be visiting some of your courses this afternoon, and I think one of them is positive psychology. Is that correct? Great class and a great topic. John Bean is a very popular professor and researcher in positive psychology, and maybe he's part of the courses. But his theory in terms of what makes a campus successful is that we need to recognize the attitudes that impact student success. So how much does a student feel like they're in control of their path and of the courses that they take and the decisions that they make, or are all those decisions made for them? So it's really about having a positive attitude and making sure students feel like they're connected to the university and that they're making decisions that they're in control of in order to have a positive experience and to ultimately graduate. The reason I have these two pictures up here is I think it demonstrates this idea of creating a structure in the online environment to allow students to have a structured environment where they can still make their own decisions and still have a good experience. And the reason why I picked these pictures is on the top one, when I was in California a year or so ago, I brought my kids to, I have two daughters who you saw on that first slide. I brought my two daughters to a park that was in the neighborhood that I'd never been to. And the park kind of looked like the one up at the top right. It was crazy, right? It had all of these different structures and none of them linked to each other. It had all of these different areas of ropes and slides, and it just felt like a Disney World of different structures for kids to play on. And you would drop your kids off and they would just scatter, right? They would just go crazy, running around like they had tons of sugar in their system. And when I was watching them play with other kids, they didn't play with each other. They didn't meet friends. They didn't stop and just play like normal kids play. They were running around like chickens with their heads cut off, right? Because none of the structures were linked together. There wasn't a story. There wasn't a connection. It wasn't structured at all. And sometimes in universities and in online universities, we have so much technology that we build all of these great things, and then you get lost. You don't know how one technology relates to the other one, and it feels like sometimes when you're on the internet, you search something on the internet. Let's say you search for, let's say you're doing schoolwork, right? And you type in Freudian psychology, right? And after a couple of clicks, pretty soon you're seeing a video about cats, and then you're seeing another video about house building, and it kind of links you to this, and links you to that, and links you to that, and pretty soon you've lost an hour or two of your time, and you never got to the question that you were trying to answer about Freudian psychology, right? Does that happen to other people? So the playground that we were at was like that, where kids would just scatter. And when I asked my daughters when they were done, who did they play with? They said, I don't know. And I said, well, can you describe some of the kids that you played with? And they had absolutely no idea. So then we went to a different park on a different day, and it was very similar to the one you see on the bottom right. And this park was smaller. It didn't have all the fancy bells and whistles that maybe you would see in the first park, but it had some very intentional structures that allowed kids to play, to take their shoes off and go in the sand and feel what that was like. And I noticed that kids who were strangers to each other began to sit next to each other like little kids do, and dig in the sand or run around and go down the slide together, and they began to make friends. And so what this story is telling us is that in the online world, we need to create spaces that are structured so that you know what it's all about, you know what the story is, and it moves you through that process so that when you come out the end, you remember what it's all about and you feel connected to that experience. And so that's what John Bean is saying in his theories as well. And so when we think about the online environment, and particularly my program, that's something that we really think a lot about when we're building our courses, when we're having teachers teach those courses. It's making sure that the experience is structured enough so that you understand all the components and how you relate to that experience, and you don't get lost out there by yourself. Does that make sense? Yes? Good? Okay. Any questions up to this point? Okay, good. So the last theorist that I wanted to share with you, and he's a new theorist. He does a lot of lecturing currently. His name is John N. Gardner, and he has a business called the Institute for Excellence. He goes to different colleges and universities and helps them with retention and with persistence and helping them to be better colleges. In his theory and his research demonstrates that what really makes a university and a campus successful is when you link the students to student supports, and in this particular instance, student affairs. So I'm imagining that's pretty easy on a campus like this that's bigger. I bet you have probably an alumni office, maybe a career services office. I'm sure you have a library. You probably have counselors or peer mentors that can help you when you're struggling, right? And that's awesome. And that's how you build a campus, is you have those wraparound supports to help students when they're struggling and to get the things that they need. You can imagine that can be really difficult in an online program, right? Where you're at home or you're at your office trying to get your assignment done, but you don't have that campus office, that librarian, or that person you can go see down the hall, that peer mentor who can help you through a particular situation or through an assignment. So what John Gardner is telling us in his research, in terms of building an online program, what we need to do is embed those student supports right into the curriculum and right into that student experience. And that's what we do at the Chicago School, and I'll show you some examples of that. Okay, so that's all of the professor knowledge stuff that I wanted to teach you for today, but I thought it was important to give you that a little bit of background before we go into the actual MAP program and give you a demonstration. Sound good? Okay. So the formula, in my view, for creating an online ecosystem that is successful is to use those three theorists that we just talked about. So social integration, right, was one of them. Anybody remember the other two? Social integration was the first one. Come on. What was the second one? Structure, yep, and we go back. So the second one was about student attitudes and then creating a structure from those student attitudes. Yeah, very good. And the third one was embedding student supports right within the curriculum. And so that's what we've done with the MAP online program. So I want to give you one example that kind of demonstrates how we've done these three things within the MAP program. And it's called our MAP Resource Cafe. And we've made this a public link, so I know you're on your phones down there, I see some of you, and on your iPads, that's okay. If you actually go to this website, www.mapsychologyonline.com, you can see in real time what I'm showing you right now, and it gives you some more information about our particular department. So let me get back to this and show you a couple of those things. Okay. So the MAP Resource Cafe. So this is an area in my department where we want to make a one-stop shop for students to get the information that they need to be successful. So for example, you could easily click on faculty and staff bios. And hopefully it'll load pretty quickly. And there you see my face and my video and my department manager, but then there's videos for the faculty that teach in the Masters of Arts in Psychology program. And you can click on their videos to know a little bit more about them. And it's really kind of a personal feel. It's very informal, but you get a feel for what your faculty are like through their videos. And we have a student ambassador or a teaching assistant there as well. Go back here. We have a spot for new and prospective students, which is all of you guys, right? Yeah, no. And there's a video, there's information about our department. It talks about what we offer and why we offer it and our specializations, which I'll go over in a little bit, and how to apply to the school. And then for current students, there's other information in there to help you be successful. So for example, we know that students are busy. You guys are busy, right? You're busy all the time. You have family obligations, you have community obligations. You may have work obligations. Obviously, you have your study obligations. Time is really hard to manage, isn't it? And that's especially true when you're getting your master's degree, because typically you're also out in the world working 40, 60 hours a week. Maybe you're married, maybe you have kids, maybe you have elderly parents that you're taking care of. Whatever it is, time management is always very difficult. So we put together under time management some resources to help our students with their time management skills, particularly as it relates to online education. So there's a couple of PDF articles to take a look at, and then a couple of really good videos, very short videos, that give students tips and tricks for how to manage their time, especially for online courses. And we do that through a few different spots. So for example, writing, technology, academic integrity or plagiarism is in there, information literacy, research, professional communication. For students getting towards the end, we have graduation and job postings to help students as well. So this is an example of how we've integrated those three things that we talked about a little bit earlier into one very easy to see and navigate area for students to help them be successful in the online program. All right. Jeez. Okay, so what's it like to take an online course? I'd like to show you a demo of what it's like to be in an online course so that you could see exactly what your day-to-day life would be like if you were to take an online course as opposed to a regular course in class. So go back to that. Okay. This is a course called Diversity and Psychology. I imagine you all have or will have a course similar to Diversity and Psychology, right? So if you were a student in the master's program and you were enrolled in this particular class, you would simply log in using your student account to the class, and you'd see a home page like this. And on the front page, there's the description, as well as the syllabus and the outcomes of the things that you'll get out of it. And there's the books that you need. So a very simple homepage to give you the information you need to start the course. Oh, I need to do one thing quick, since this is a lot good. Where's the add button? It's different on this computer. Any technology help? We found it. Nobody saw that, right? Oh, now I should be able to go back to. Okay. All right, I'm going to do this the long way. Does anybody have any quick questions for you and or Heather while I log in?
Mi nombre es Mariano Balbán y mi pregunta es más que nada sobre el curso que está mencionando, si es gratuito o tengo que pagar.
Ok, el curso, la maestría completa.
O sea, estaba mencionando los cursos un rato, unos cursos online, y quiero saber si es gratuito o si tengo que pagar.
Ok, esos cursos online son los que forman parte del programa de maestría online. Entonces, el programa de maestría tiene un costo, como cualquier estudio de maestría. Eso lo van a comentar después, al final es lo que veamos ahora. Una cosa que no mencioné, que de repente es importante, quizás in about the price of the courses, but I don't remember the whole program. But, lo que es importante es que el alumno de psicología de UPC, la maestría de ellos demora 2 años. Entonces, esa maestría, con los 6 años de estudio que ustedes tienen con nosotros, la maestría. O sea, los cursos que ustedes han llevado convalidan 18 créditos, que después me van a explicar, y eso hace 1 año de estudios. Ustedes solamente hacen 1 año adicional online, que pueden reducirlo a 6 meses y que lo hacen con un ritmo más rápido, y obtienen la maestría con ellos en la especialidad o en el campo que ustedes quieren. Ahora vamos a seguir estudiando, pero de verdad pregunten para que tengan idea. De repente no han pensado ahorita en una maestría, pero de repente empieza a ser parte de su proyecto profesional, puede ser con Chicago, con una universidad, pero vayan pensando en cómo quiero continuar mi formación profesional y qué alternativas tengo. A veces es, digamos, difícil irse fuera, ¿no es cierto? Porque implica mucho más, y online tenemos una alternativa de formación a nivel de máster que también es importante para considerar. ¿Sí? Ahora vemos la parte de detalles logísticos o administrativos, vamos a llamarlo.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the tuition in a little bit, as well as, excuse me, all the courses that would transfer from UPC into the MET program. So I got the technology up and working. So I showed you that first page that had the syllabus, what the textbooks are, probably similar to what your syllabi look like in your courses. And then there's an area called announcements. So this is where the professor is given a weekly announcement. Things happening in the class. So this is Dr. Ramquist, and she did a video for the first week.
Hello class, welcome to Diversity in this first summer term of 2017. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Ramquist. I'm your instructor for this course. I've been with the Chicago School for going on 7 years now, and diversity is one of my favorite courses I teach. It's something I care so much about. So I'm looking forward to the next 7 weeks with you. Some brief overviews to help you get started. Canvas, if you have difficulty navigating Canvas or course platform, in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen is a circle with a question mark in it. You should go there first for any Canvas course management questions, like how do I post, how do I record, how do I see my instructor comments, etc. If you have problems with just IT in general, internet technology, information technology in general, you need to go to the Chicago Schools IT help desk, and I'll have that written in an announcement for you. And then questions about course content, that's what I do. So ask me about the course, how to write discussion posts, etc. That's what you would ask me for. Let me tell you a little bit about how this course goes. We have 7 weeks plus.
So I'll stop it there. It goes on for a little bit longer, but you can get a feel for what it's like to get videos from your professor during a course. Everybody's pretty friendly and informal, and you could tell she was sharing a lot about herself, but also how to be successful in her class and where to go get additional help if you need help with some of those components. So that's Dr. Ramquist's video. And she does one of those probably every week to students to get them ready for the material for that week. If you were to click on people, for example, if you were in this class, you would see all of the classmates that you have that were in the course with their emails, and there's probably most people put their picture. Some people put, a little bio about themselves, but some people don't or choose not to, so that's fine. But you can see all of the students that are in your class. So if you have questions for them or want to make additional friends, you can certainly contact them as well. Usually, as you go along in a course, you're replying to other students' essays, right? So you're giving them feedback. And you tend to develop friendships to some of the same people. So they're reading your posts and giving you feedback, and you're reading theirs and giving them feedback, and pretty soon you develop friendships just like you guys develop friendships in a regular classroom or with your study groups as well. Then you would go into the link on the right that says assignments, and this just basically tells you what you need to do for each week's material. So in this class, each week has 2 units. So there's a discussion for Unit 1 where you're introducing yourself, and then there's a discussion on cultural competency. So in that discussion, if I were to click on it, it would probably say, read chapters 1 and 2 of your cultural competency textbook and describe 3 ways that, that you could be more culturally competent, or pick a culture that you're not familiar with from your textbook and talk about some diversity things, or that sort of thing. So you're writing an essay based on the readings. And then after you write that essay and put it online, then your professor would obviously read through it and give you feedback and give you points and give you a grade. And then your peers who are in that course would read it and give you feedback as well, and vice versa. So you have a really nice layout of what you need to do each week, as well as the due dates to do it. And then lastly, there's obviously an online grade book where you would click in and you would, in your case, you would only see your name, you wouldn't see everybody else's. But across, you would see all of the different activities and discussions and research papers or final exams or quizzes in your grade out of how many scores. And then you could click on those to get additional feedback from your instructor that they wrote. And then it would calculate your grades for the entire course to see how well you're doing. Does that make sense? And that's basically the week-to-week activities that happen in a particular class. You log in usually on a Monday to see what your instructor has written or what advice they have for you or to see their video. They sometimes have office hours if you need to contact them as well or do a video chat. They like to do that. Then you would read whatever study activities you had, whatever chapters you needed to read, and then there would be some essay questions for you to write and then responses for you to do. And then you see your grades. And our courses are 8 weeks long, so after our course finishes, then you go right on to the next course. Any questions about what it's like to take an online course? Any surprises or things that you would like to see in it? Does it seem pretty easy? Yes, sir.
Supone que todo el programa es en inglés, pero quisiera saber si hay una forma de desarrollar estas tareas en español y que el profesor te evalúe, te dé la nota en base, bueno, desarrollada en español.
Sí. No, tenemos cursos en inglés y español, así que tú puedes elegir el curso en español si quieres o si prefieres, pero hay una parte que tiene que tener en inglés, ¿ok? Entonces, es un programa bilingüe. He's asking about if you have some questions or if you were to present something in Spanish, if the professor would be able to respond. So maybe talk a little bit about the faculty that do speak Spanish.
Sure. So, and I'll get into this in a couple more slides, but we do have 2 tracks. So one is where you take the courses in English, and the other actually is you can take them in Spanish and have a Spanish-speaking instructor, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But let's say you're going to take it in English and you still wanted some additional support in Spanish. We have student support counselors or advisors, maybe you call them advisors. And we do have those folks who are fluent in Spanish. And you could ask them a question, and as well as faculty who are fluent in Spanish as well, just like Heather is fluent in Spanish from the admission side. So we make sure to help out in that regard as well. Yes?
I was wondering about the exams. You said it has 7 weeks, it lasts like half as long as the course of the UK. These are 16 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you have like a midterm or finals and how you know when you have exams.
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're right, ours are 8 weeks long. They're 3 credit classes. I often am asked how many hours a week a student spends in their class. And really the average is about 8 to 10 hours. And that includes all the time that you do with your reading. If there's other journal articles or videos or even movies that need to be watched, that includes that time, as well as writing your essays and then responding to your professor and to your classmates. So each class usually takes about 8 to 10 hours a week of time. Now, it could be faster if you're really good with typing and technology, and it could be slower if you have slow internet connection. But that's about the time average. In terms of quizzes and final papers, what I found is that there usually isn't a final exam. There usually is a final paper, which could be about 10 to 15 pages. Now, you would be able to work on that paper throughout the term, and that's what we would really be prompting you to do. So maybe in the first week, you'd be doing a bibliography. And by week 4, you would have the first 5 pages written, and you could submit that for feedback if you wanted. so that by the time you get to week 8, you wouldn't have this huge paper waiting for you. You would have already completed it in different stages. So that's usually how the final occurs. And then there's some courses will have a quiz each week, which could just be a simple online quiz, multiple choice. Or there could be a weekly short paper, or every other week it could be like a 2-page paper on comparing and contrasting developmental psychology theorists or something like that. So you're always turning in work each week, but it's usually chunked up pretty good, so you don't have to worry about studying for a big exam. Yeah, that's a great question. Any others before we move on? Oh, yeah, you have one.
Es necesario, o sea, se supone que este programa es online. Entonces, ¿hay algún momento en el que tú tienes que viajar a Estados Unidos? ¿O todo lo haces online? No, es totalmente online. Para el MAP program, the MA Psychology. Hay otros que hay la opción de viajar a Chicago o cualquier sitio, pero para este programa totalmente online.
Yeah, so ours is 100% online, and there's no residency or internship or practicum that's required. You don't have to fly to Chicago to complete anything. It's completely done online, which is really nice because we have a lot of students all across the United States as well as the world, working in different time zones and jobs and that sort of thing. And obviously traveling would be very, very difficult for them. This allows them to complete their master's degree without any sort of residency that they would need to. Now, our other campuses, they do have those components as well, if that's something people are interested in.
Digamos, acá no hay necesidad de hacer este viaje a Chicago para el programa de maestría. En un caso, como les comenté hace un rato, estamos viendo la visión académica, que es independiente de, pero que sí les da una idea de cómo se trabaja en Chicago el tema de psicología. Entonces, lo vamos a hacer también.
So this slide is a little bit more detail about the MAP program, and MAP again stands for the Masters of Arts in Psychology. So the first part is, we've already talked about how we'll help you succeed, and we create those kind of wraparound student supports to make sure that you're doing well. The second part means that we're multidisciplinary. So the MAP program is considered a non-clinical, non-licensure program. And it's really geared toward people that are looking to apply psychology principles in a wide variety of different ways. So in my program, I have school teachers, I have police officers, I have people that are working for the government or for nonprofit organizations, clinics, healthcare. They're all in different fields, but in some way they're applying psychology principles to their daily job. And so it's really interesting to get classmates that not only are working and living all over the world, but they're in many different types of jobs that you normally wouldn't have access to knowing them, whether it's for the Red Cross, or as a teacher, or in an inner city, or for a clinic, or all sorts of jobs, but any job where they're applying psychology principles in their day-to-day life. In the MAP program, we have 7 concentrations to choose from, okay? And a concentration is a set of 3 courses in that particular topic. So even though you'd be getting the foundational psychology degree, you would still have a concentration, a specialty in one of these. So these are what the concentrations are to pick from. The first one is applied behavioral analysis. The second is child and adolescent psychology. And a side note, I can send this PowerPoint to you if you give us your email and you want me to send it to you, so you can look over it on your own time as well. The third one, sorry I didn't mention that before. The third one is forensic psychology. The fourth one is generalist. Now what generalist is basically for the person that has many interests. So you can pick and choose courses from any of these other concentrations. International psychology is another concentration. Organizational leadership, and public health. So those are our, what did I say, 6, 7 regular concentrations. Now I mentioned earlier in response to your question that we do also offer courses to be taken in Spanish, to be taught in Spanish. And if you were to choose that track, you wouldn't have the options of all these concentrations. You would have a different concentration called social and community psychology. And maybe you've had social psychology or community psychology classes, so you have a pretty good idea what that's about. But if you do the Spanish version, that would be your concentration in social and community psychology. Any questions about those concentrations before I move on? I'll come back to that a little bit as well. That's the same stuff. So in terms of the partnership that the Chicago School has with UPC, 18 credits that you've already taken or are already taking in your UPC program would automatically transfer into the master's program. So my master's program is a regular 2-year, 36 credit program, right? Which is pretty standard. But you would be transferring in 18 of those credits, which would make it a 1-year, 18 credit program for UPC graduates of psychology. Does that make sense? So you could complete your master's degree in as little as 1 year. You could actually do it faster than that if you took more than one class at a time. So you can see on the left-hand side, the UPC courses that would automatically transfer into the core courses that we have in the MAP program. So 18 credits would transfer in from UPC into the master's program. If you were to do our regular English route and take one of the regular concentrations, this is what it would look like in terms of your journey to your master's degree. So you can see where there's an X, those are courses that you've already taken that were transferred from UPC. So you would come in, and the first course you would take would be the MP 525 Research Methods course. You would tell us which of the concentrations you wanted, and then you would take those 3 concentration courses before doing your applied research project. So before you do your applied research project, you basically have 4 courses. You'd have research methods, and then your 3 concentration courses, and then you would do your applied research project. Now I can remember when I was here last, and Roxanna and I looked through your curriculum, and I was so impressed with all of the research courses that I saw that you guys were taking. And I think today and tomorrow we're going to be visiting some of those research courses as well. And what really stood out for me when I looked at your research curriculum is that it's very similar to what we do in an applied research project. So it seemed like you have a lot more applied research skills and experience than most of the students that do not come from UPC. So I really believe that you would enjoy and you would find the applied research project very similar to what you've been doing for your research projects at UPC. So to summarize this, if you did the English version, you would have research methods, your 3 concentration courses, and then do your applied research project. If you decided that you wanted to do the Spanish version, this is what it would look like. So very similar, but you would start off with your research methods course, the 525. Your concentration would be the social and community psychology concentration. And then you can see the 3 courses that correspond to the social and community psychology concentration. They're called the psychology of gender, the psychology of cultures, the international psychology of gender, and acculturation. So you take those 3 courses as well. Now all of this would be delivered in Spanish. The course would be in Spanish. The course shell that I showed you before would all be in Spanish. The teacher obviously would be teaching in Spanish. So your courses would all be in Spanish, right? And then you would do your applied research project in Spanish as well. I wanted to, sometimes we do this presentation to other groups online, and I'm lucky to have on my faculty a couple of people that usually are on the video with me, talking to students and to other folks. So that's why this slide is here, but I'll introduce them even though they're not in person. So one is a faculty member, her name is Eliana Torres, and she's one of our 3 applied research project instructors. So she only teaches the applied research project courses, and she helps students develop their idea, their proposal, and their research project. She's also been our our subject matter expert in translating our courses from English to Spanish as well. And then Leila Sarquez, she is originally from Costa Rica and did her undergraduate degree in Costa Rica, and then she did her master's at the Chicago School in the MAP program. So she's an alumni of the MAP program, and she's one of our faculty who's also translating courses from English to Spanish, and she'll be teaching some of those courses as well. So we'll go over and answer some of the application and tuition questions that you have after this presentation, and certainly after we get done as well, so I won't bore you with all the details of these 2 slides. And then the last couple of things I wanted to show you is sometimes in the online environment, you're not too sure who your instructors are, right? So I wanted to show you exactly who the MAP team is and who the instructors are. So I have 4 core faculty, which are full-time professors in the program, who live and work all around the United States. And then I have approximately 15 other adjunct faculty who are also, they actually live outside the United States, some of them, and teach our courses for us. And it's, like I said earlier, it's nice to have classmates who are living and working in all parts of the world, but it's also nice to have instructors and professors who also are living and working in all areas of the world to kind of understand their experience, because they share a lot of that. They share their practice of psychology in different organizations and institutions and communities, and it's fun to learn how they do that where they live as well. So I wanted to show you their faces of who our faculty are. And then lastly, I wanted to show you one more quick video, which is about our commencement, which is when you graduate. How many are going to graduate in the next 6 months? Next year? Year and a half? 2 years? All right. But it'll come quicker than you probably can imagine right now. So one last video, and then we'll answer your questions for you.
Professional psychology because it's distinguished in the field of psychology and it's very valuable.
From the ABA perspective, I thought our professors were great. One, got a really good education, and then the location, living in Chicago, is a lot of fun.
I think I would say I've grown professionally. My teachers have been amazing. All of them have a great background.
I realized that this was the best school in the country, in the world. I'm so glad that I could find it.
I think the international student becomes important to understand that even though diversity implies differences, I think the school has taught me to find the commonalities in those differences when I work with faculty, students, and clients.
Whether you come from a wealthy or poor background, regardless of your gender, race, ethnicity, or nationality, I know that this is a privilege that you have each earned with a considerable amount of hard work and persistence. And you are to be honored for this accomplishment for the rest of your life.
I have never dreamed of actually getting a doctorate, and like today I am standing here getting my degree.
I'm the first person in my immediate family to go to graduate school, so that's probably the biggest impact. And to be able to see my family, see how proud they are of me.
Proud by improving our education and enriching our minds so that we can contribute more to our families in many different ways.
So So whether you go to the Chicago School or not, hopefully that was motivational for you, for those that are going to be graduating from UPSA in the next couple of years. But with that, we'll open it up to any questions that you might have about the program. And as the presentation ends, you can also come up here and talk with us a little bit afterwards. And then the three of us will also be on site on Friday from, I think, 1 to 3 in the booth, so you can come talk to us as well and maybe get some pens or some funky stuff.
Ahora más bien tenemos preguntas a la mayoría de las personas que visitan respecto al programa, a las características. No sé si quedó claro que si que alguien quiere hacer en español los estudios, lo que se ofrece ahorita es en psicología social.
Would it be possible for me to take some courses on English and some courses in Spanish, or it's just full English and full Spanish?
That's a tricky one. I believe you could take them in both, but your concentration would be dependent on whether you did English or Spanish. Because we only have one concentration in Spanish, so you would be kind of bound by those 3 courses. But if you did the English version, for example, and you did the generalist concentration, where you can pick those 3 courses from any of them, then you could take 1 or 2 of the Spanish courses from that Spanish concentration. So you could do both that way. That's a tricky one.
I have a question for all of you guys. How many of you guys thought that online, like learning and online degree programs would be like this? Is this what you guys expected, or what did you guys have in mind? I just want to ask that question. Anybody? All right, so I'll share with you a couple of things that I've actually observed over the years with talking with students, right? So when it comes to making a decision about anything, whether it's school, whether it's dating, whatever the case might be, a couple of things have to happen, right? It has to be the right time. You have to have the motivation, right? And you have to run out of excuses, right? And so if all of those 3 things align, then you're actually ready to commit to something. With online, I'm the first one. Like when online first came out 15 years ago, I'm like, what is online? Like, I could never learn online. Like, you know what? I need to be inside a classroom, behind a desk, sitting down, paying attention, or pretending to pay attention, right? And actually physically, be on a campus, because that's how we were taught to learn. And over the years, right, with evolution of technology and social media, interesting things, happen. Nowadays, everybody, like, Dr. John mentioned in the beginning, we have our smartphones, we have our social media posts, and we're communicating with each other in different mediums, right? So here's a question. If you guys text your friends and have that and talk to each other, is that communicating? Right? Do you have to physically see them to be able to communicate with them? No. When you guys are studying and you're, I don't know, at home, at the library, writing your papers for psychology, do you guys do it by yourself, or do you do it in groups? Usually. By yourself, right? Do you guys do, any of you guys do like Facebook? Right? When you guys actually do Facebook posts, what do you expect? Reactions, right? Do you comment on your friend's, picture of a nice dog? Sometimes, or ice cream. I do. If there's ice cream, I like all the time likes, right? So I mean, it's really like taking that concept, and it's not exactly the same, but really applying those same principles. The interaction that you're getting with the online campus and engagement is similar to how we behave today. So when you're posting your assignment online, it's kind of like posting on Facebook. Not really, but you're also getting the same feedback. Your feedback that you're getting from the likes will be, in turn, academics from your faculty, your peers. when you're engaging with professors, instead of, hey, raising my hand, please pick on me, I have a question, then you're actually able to post a comment, right? Sending a quick email. And when you're communicating, and if you guys do FaceTime, or if you guys do FaceTime, I do FaceTime all the time. So if you do FaceTime, it's kind of like the videos, right? So you're actually able to engage. So if you try like linking some of the behaviors that you're currently doing with what online is, it actually makes a lot of sense. And so that fear or that hesitation, kind of like, okay, you know what? It makes a little bit more sense now. And then so that's step one. Number two has to be, is it the right program, right? And obviously you guys are all in the field of psychology, so you guys will have a better understanding of the different impacts that you will be able to make once you actually earn and graduate from UPSA. And if you have career aspirations, to become a psychologist or to go on and do something else with governments, nonprofit organization, whatever that case might be, it's always going to be that platform. And one of the great things about online is that it's global. Like, we're here today at UPSA in Peru. Yesterday, I was freezing in Chicago because it was really like 25 degrees. It was like cold. So, and so it's global. And when I travel and I meet actually students from our online math program, from Hong Kong, from India, from China, and I ask the question like, why did you guys select the Chicago school and decide to study with an online platform? And everybody says because one, it's convenient, because some of the same behaviors that you're doing here today, it's applicable to, doesn't matter where you are in the world. And number two, because you're actually able to get different perspectives from different students and your peers. And that's the key element in the socio-ecological platform that we're trying to create in the Chicago School, especially in the math program. And then so there's so many advantages to online as a learning platform. And at the end of the day, if you want to get a graduate degree and a master's degree, it's 4 classes. Can you guys commit to 4 classes? I mean, if you're thinking about going to graduate school and it's going to take 2 years, right? How many classes is that typically? If you want to continue education in the field of psychology and you look at any other program in anywhere in the world, how many classes would you need to complete typically on average? A lot, right? I mean, you're looking at, at least, what, 24 to about 12, about minimum 12 to 24 credit hours, classes, right? So we're talking about 4 classes, and because of the great work and the exceptional academics that you guys here at UPSA, that we're able to match our curriculum with UPSA, where you're already developing on the foundation that you have, which is a research method, key component, and then you're going right into the area that you want to focus your concentration on. You just get to take that classes. I mean, I remember when I was in undergraduate school, first 2 years in the U.S., general education, I had to take classes in writing and all kinds of other classes that I just didn't really want to have very much interest, but it was part of my education that I had to take, right? And then when I got to my junior and senior year, that's when I was able to really focus on what I wanted to study. The opportunity for Chicago School is that you're jumping right into what you want to study, and you're going to go right into the concentration, not only the field, but the concentration, and it's just the 4 classes. So in terms of time, when you're ready, in terms of commitment, and if you don't have the fear to really explore different opportunity, it really is an option for you guys to consider. Any other questions? No? Yes.
If I understood correctly, if you take the Spanish route, you do concentration courses, they are very selective. Yes. But if you take the English route, they have like 7 or 8. When it comes to just the other courses that are necessary the Spanish route,
more choices. Yeah. Eventually, if we can get more and more UPSA students to start and take classes, then we'll have more opportunity to create more courses in those. So the reason why we wanted to start with one concentration first that we thought would be interesting and applicable and topics that you've already explored, to kind of get it launched and off the ground. And then as more students start, we can add in additional courses for more choices. Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask one question.
Yes. We go back to that page and then you and then Heather can talk about those details.
So the tuition rates depend on the number of credits that you take. So for example, if you get all of the maximum amount of transfer credits, which is 18, so you have 18 remaining, you pay per credit, it's $1,127 US dollars per credit. So as we have this agreement with UPSA, you will have a deducted rate. So you would have to let us know that you're a UPSA student, and then we can work with you to make sure that you get the deducted rate. So if you look in the bottom right, I know this is a lot of words, but if you look in the bottom right, you'll see the amount breakdown. And then the 50% reduction, you're looking at about $10,000 total. That's for the entire master's program. And remember, you don't have to pay costs to come travel to Chicago. You're just paying for the program itself, and then any textbooks associated with the program. And I can send you this if you have more detailed questions. I would be happy to talk to you after. We also have some handouts with information details.
I would say that the only time that you would travel to the United States, if you choose to, will be at graduation, because we really want to see you at graduation. And for online students, you have a choice of 6 different campuses to actually attend graduation. Because and whichever is closest to you. So if you want to come to Chicago, if you want to go out to California, and whatever the case might be, you could actually pick the campus that you want to participate in graduation, because we have online students graduating at each of our campuses every single year. If you want to come to Chicago, you can see me. It should be kind of cool. I can take you guys all on a boat tour, which is usually pretty fun. Only in the summer though. It is better in July. It's snowing today in Chicago, so I'm not complaining about the nice sunny weather outside today. Any other
Otra
questions?
pregunta, chicos, para ir terminando, porque ya viene otra hora de clase y terminamos esta actividad también. Algo más que quisiera saber ahora, si no el viernes también, pero pueden acercarse a la una. Pero si alguien tuviera preguntas acerca de cualquier tema que tenga que ver con esos estudios. ¿Han pensado en hacer estudios de maestría? ¿Alguno de ustedes ya lo ha pensado o todavía? Más o menos. El día de hoy no nos podemos quedar con bachillerato y licenciatura. Realmente el día de hoy ya no. Entonces sí empezar a proyectarse en los campos que les interese, la posibilidad que les interese, vayan explorando. Hay muchas oportunidades alrededor del mundo, dentro del país y fuera, pero esta es una que traemos hoy. Pero vayan pensando en cómo trazar su ruta profesional, que no termina con la licenciatura. Con el bachillerato. ¿Saben a qué especialidad van? Ya algunos ya saben. ¿Quiénes van a clínica? It's a clinical psychology here. Educacional. Ajá. Son los vanguardistas acá. ¿Dónde está Patty? Tenemos que empujar la línea. For example, in educational psychology, there's a course that Patty has. It's nuevas tecnologías en educación. So it's very precise for online programs of studies. ¿Y organizacional quiénes van? ¿Quién todavía no sabe? Vale. ¿En qué ciclo están? Ah, perfecto. ¿Alguna pregunta más, chicos?
Yo sí lo voy a hacer.
My question is about what mechanisms do you have for necesito decirlo en español. ¿Cuáles son los mecanismos que tienen para asegurar la calidad de estos programas online para que
que su calidad sea tan buena como un curso regular presencial.
What do you guys think? What kind of mechanisms do we have to make
So did everybody get a question? Yeah, so I would say that they are already on par with the regular campus programs. So in terms of the curriculum, the textbooks, the readings, the assignments, the discussions are already the same as the campus programs. So we have some online programs that also have a campus program, and they're exactly the same credits, same courses, same textbooks. The only difference is the platform that you're taking it on. And then in terms of the institution is accredited by WASC, which is the same accreditor that UPC accredits. So in terms of overall accreditation, it's through the same mechanism and the same accreditation site that UPC is. And then I believe the Chicago School has a really incredible reputation in terms of their psychology curriculum and their faculty and their scholarship. But I think it's the same whether you take an online class at the Chicago School or an on-campus class. It's just a different platform. There may be a few different, you have to reply to a student's essay versus in class, you probably don't. So there's a few tweaks like that are different, but the overall competencies and the knowledge that you get, which is assessed through assignments and papers, is the same.
Maybe if I can add something. I think that Chicago School and UPC have their own self-assessment mechanism to learn how are we going. We are both accredited with WASC, so we need to get the improvement of each thing that we are doing daily. So maybe you have yours, we have ours, but we are constantly reviewing what we are doing to make it better. I don't know if that goes in the line of your question too, but that's our goal as an educational institution.
And I think that's part of the reason why this partnership between UPC and the Chicago School actually happened, was because they're under the same WASC accreditation and with the same standards. And so when WASC comes here and talks to students and faculty and looks at graduation rates and everything that's going on, they come to the Chicago School campuses and they look at the online campus to make sure our graduation rates and our competencies and our faculty and our research are exactly the same across. So I think you'd find a similar type of focus on knowledge and competencies. If that makes sense.
Brevemente, no sé si todos saben lo que es la acreditación. Pues queda claro porque es algo que nos permite mejorar permanentemente y mirarnos y saber, ¿hemos avanzado o no? Y cuando volvemos a tener una visita de WASC o de alguna otra agencia de acreditación, tenemos que decir, bueno, ¿cuánto avanzamos desde la última vez que nos visitaron? O sea, no es que me dieron la acreditación y me quedo tranquilo. No, tengo que seguir avanzando porque la meta se va corriendo. Él está evolucionando con la educación y con las necesidades que hay en la sociedad.
Acá me están preguntando.
Ellos, ¿por qué no preguntan a ellas?
A ver, bueno, y quieren saber qué es acreditación.
Ok, what's accreditation? La acreditación es un proceso por el cual determinadas instituciones u organizaciones preparadas para eso evalúan el funcionamiento, en este caso, de instituciones educativas, con ciertos criterios. Por ejemplo, una universidad debe tener un nivel de formación de profesores. El día de hoy se exige que los profesores tengan maestría, no el bachillerato. Ya no se puede contratar a un profesor que solamente esté con bachillerato, por ejemplo. O que tengamos determinada cantidad de horas teóricas o prácticas, o instalaciones, o experiencias de internacionalidad, buena inserción en los campos laborales. Una serie de estándares que la institución establece como requisitos para UPC, para Chicago, para diferentes universidades. Y uno hace la evaluación hace el análisis de todo eso, lo presenta a la institución, nos visitan, de hecho CINEACE, que es la institución del Ministerio de Educación, nos visitó en diciembre a nosotros en el proceso de acreditación de carrera, no de UPC, que es con Huasca. Huasca ha acreditado a la UPC como universidad en el 2016. Pero el año pasado tuvimos como psicología el proceso de acreditación. Nuestros profesores participaron también en la elaboración del informe y en la visita. Y ellos nos dicen, ok, sí, cumplen, porque nos ponen los requisitos. Entonces, evalúan y dicen, sí, estás cumpliendo con esto, puedes mejorar en esto deberías lograrlo mejor. ¿Y qué te propones hacer como plan de mejora? ¿Cuál es tu plan de acción para avanzar y ser mejor? Y eso se da cada cierto tiempo. ¿Respondo la pregunta? Y es importante que una universidad donde ustedes estudian esté acreditada. Le da otro nivel de reconocimiento y otro valor, y sobre todo nos exige a nosotros muchísimo más para seguir siendo mejores. Y es lo que debería hacer cada uno a nivel profesional. Bueno, nuestra propia acreditación. Ok. Ok. Bueno. Creo que podemos. We can finish this session. Okay. Un aplauso, por favor. Muchas gracias a ustedes, chicos. Ya saben, el viernes de 1 a 3 también nos podemos encontrar en
Chicos, por favor, necesito que todos se pongan al medio para tomarnos una